Caribbean and Americas. Hello, this is Shu joining the AGM. CPTM AGM. Since I am not at the hub, I can see a few of you from where I am sitting.
Okay.
And seems to be very far away, although I know you are far away.
We started the meeting.
Ahila, maybe with permission of everybody, can you chair the meeting of this our AGM?
Good.
Thank you, Omar, for entrusting me. I mentioned 23 simply because just a bit before.
Ahila, can you speak closer to the
Okay. Fine,
Yes.
thank you. Just a bit before, from about 11 up to about 1 o'clock, we had Professor David Hand, who tried to explain to us the importance of data. And it's not the number, and it's not just the quality, it's much more, and you will tell us again what it is. So, and thank you for my colleagues on the board. I understand almost everybody, with the exception of one, is participating virtually, but also this annual general meeting, as before, but more than ever, it is live broadcasted. It's live broadcasted in the Caribbean, in Southeast Asia, in Africa, and I think I have an echo. And also in Canada. There's no more echo. This type of annual general meetings, Smart Partners annual general meetings, could be characterized by full participation, but virtual participation, on what we call hybrid participation. We are in this hybrid state in the last 10 years. So out of the 23 years, about 13 years, we had face-to-face AGM as dialogues almost. In the last 10 years, we started to use the various technologies which allowed us, even more than before, to communicate the goodness of this group and the formality that we're following. So, following now the formality of the annual general meeting, the order paper is saying that we have the necessary quorum of the members. Nick?
Yes.
Yeah? So we can proceed with the meeting, the annual general meeting. On behalf of Omar and myself and all our board of directors, we are very much welcoming the High Commissions present, Uganda from Rome, but also Seychelles, and of course on behalf of the Commonwealth Association, Patsy, but also on her own personal behalf, and Caribbean and so on. We're also welcoming any, as usual, smart partners who are online or here, and who are not necessarily members, but we'll come to that. You are always welcome as CPTM at large. So, you will have had the AGM notice, the formal AGM notice. And the first substantive item, as usual, is the CPTM Chairman's 2018 report and message on behalf of the CPTM board. So I will now ask the CPTM Chairman to read the report and the message, which will give an update on progress since April 2017 up to April 2018, but up to today. Complementary to that, I will come in to explain more details about the type of activities that we got into it. So, Omar, please. This is your first time that you're virtual but also live with us.
Thank you. Before I begin, I would like for all of us to hold a 1 minute silence in memory of our member and director, Dr. Gideon Mahalela.
Chairman of Railways in Swaziland.
Hello?
Thank you very much. This is an AGM, a CPTM AGM, like no other as far as I am concerned. First of all, I'm not at the hub physically, and like many other directors, we are online. And I'm using the Skype for the very first time ever. And I understand from looking around that it's not as lively as it used to be on our AGM. And all this because perhaps we might say is a reversal of fortune as far as we are concerned. In the chairman's message at the 2016 AGM, I had already indicated the challenges CPTM had faced in the previous year in maintaining a useful presence through relevant activities on the face of severe constraints on our financial resources, and the strenuous effort were being made to rectify the problem. The results were encouraging, and we managed to continue with our work on implementing national visions and the cooperative frameworks covering quality and standards, financial inclusions, and science and technology. Now, the chairman's message of 2017 reported the success in reorganizing the Smart Partnership Hub and reducing our operating expenses. I want now to report that action taken to reduce costs continued throughout the 2017-2018 period. Despite those efforts, our position continued to be critical because of the inherent weaknesses in the financial provision supporting our organization, forcing directors and management to consider several actions moving forward. I will come back to this later on in my message. On many previous occasions, we have all recognized the uniqueness of our organization and confirmed our belief in the positive contributions we make to the Commonwealth and in promoting Commonwealth values. In particular, our effort in promoting good practices in governance for development through our inclusive cooperative frameworks. Around the recent CHOGM in London 2018, I wrote a lengthy article about our uniqueness under the title of The Commonwealth and Me, which was published in part in the Star newspaper in Malaysia, entitled Making the Commonwealth More Relevant. I would like to read out some excerpts from this article, and I quote, "I believe the former Commonwealth of the biannual CHOGMs has little or no impact on ordinary citizens of member countries whose only awareness of the Commonwealth would be from the publicity in local media surrounding their heads when they attend the meetings once every 2 years. When a head is not present or represented by another official, there would be less publicity and much less awareness at home. Within governments, only the ministers of foreign affairs used to be involved with the Commonwealth, their officers being members of the COW, Committee of the Whole, involved in the CHOGM officials meeting. Only lately the COW is replaced by a meeting of the ministers of foreign affairs, and this year special meetings were organized for government and industry leaders. There is, however, the People's Forum, the gathering at the time of CHOGM, but not part of it, of the members of special interest groups, professional associations, and the many other NGOs with the word Commonwealth in their names. For them, their Commonwealth is the respective groups and associations they belong to. Their numbers would be small in comparison with the total Commonwealth population, and for them, their connection to the Commonwealth would be ephemeral, probably coming into realization only briefly once every 2 years. My own connection with the Commonwealth, not an ephemeral but an enduring one, is an organization that owes its origin to CHOGM Kuala Lumpur, and this organization is CPTM, the Commonwealth Partnership for Technology Management. End of quote. I then wrote about the genesis of CPTM from SMO and CommonSat in the Commonwealth Science Council to CCGTM in the Economic Division of the ComSat, and finally become an independent company limited by guarantee, which is CPTM. And I wrote about the role played by CHOGM Kuala Lumpur, CHOGM Cyprus, and CHOGM New Zealand in our birth. Now, at the New Zealand CHOGM, the heads came up at the end of their meeting in their 1995 communique as follows. Heads of government welcomed the establishment of CPTM as an innovative joint venture between government and private sector and urged both to contribute. Now let me quote again from the article that I referred to earlier. A major CPTM contribution to Malaysia and the Commonwealth is the elaboration of the smart partnership principles, processes, and practices, and their dissemination to many countries in Southern and East Africa. Smart partnership is a social innovation that we introduced to the world at the first Langkawi International Dialogue in 1995. After a series of leads and other smart partnership dialogues in various countries in Southern and East Africa and in the Caribbean, the smart partnership concept becomes accepted as a multi-stakeholder cooperation, collaboration, and partnering based on shared vision, long-term commitment, and evolving common objectives that goes beyond strategic alliance. It is about fair and equitable outcome for all partners and ethical values based on respect, trust, transparency, and tolerance. Now, smart partnership facilitate a continuous constructive engagement of stakeholders, which allows for sharing of experiences, voicing concerns, and encouraging informed decision at both institutional and personal level. It also provides the opportunity for synchronizing perception, which can lead to consensus on conflicting and contentious issues, for new insight into concerns leading to new ways of dealing with them, and for unifying position on common issues which may lead to cooperative action. The official and formal intergovernmental Commonwealth certainly has a place, an important role to play. But the current situation of rapid changes in the geopolitical environment, economic trends, and technological development, it is becoming necessary for Commonwealth countries to seek and avail themselves of new platforms, structures, and dynamics in cooperation so as to be timely and fully briefed and updated, to assess the implication of change, and to design the right type of policy responses. A networking organization constantly engaging, nimble and alert in spotting signals of new trends, and in timely transference of information like CPTM has an important complementary role to play. This CPTM is my Commonwealth. Likewise, that of my colleagues on all 5 continents across the globe. Our Commonwealth does not come alive only once every 2 years. Ours is alive, active, ongoing, engaging, and enriching. It deserves more recognition from the center. End of quote. Now, despite the above uniqueness, we inherited, as mentioned earlier, a weakness in our financial support system, which is based on voluntary contribution. In the beginning, generous contributions came from all the developed Commonwealth countries and a good number of developing countries, and from the Commonwealth Secretariat itself. For various reasons, contribution from the Secretariat and from the developed Commonwealth countries were discontinued, and from the developing ones became erratic and not conducive to proper budgeting process. It has been said that, based on our funding provision, we were doomed from the start, but we survived for 23 years because we established ourselves as a networking organization, our networking members providing their time and expertise to our activities at no cost. Additionally, being aware of the weakness in our funding system, fellows of CPTM established an endowment fund. Unfortunately, the endowment fund never reached the amount needed to generate enough dividends for sustained support to CPTM. With permission of the founders, the core fund was utilized to support the activities of CPTM. Today, the fund is no longer in a position to provide support. Since last year, special contribution from Uganda and annual contribution for a number of countries, such as Botswana, Cameroon, Cyprus, Dominica, Lesotho, Malta, Malawi, Namibia, St. Lucia, Seychelles, Swaziland, the Bahamas, Zambia, the Central Bank of Swaziland, the Central Bank of Uganda, and Antigua and Barbuda Bureau of Standards, the Seychelles Institute of Science and Swaziland Railways, and from a number of companies such as Hydrofoam and Tibio Taka Nagwade, have kept CPTM going. But the outlook remains uncertain due to the irregular and unreliable nature of the voluntary contribution, continually casting doubt upon CPTM's ability to continue as a going concern. For this reason, the directors and management of CPTM, after a series of formal meetings and informal discussions, and with advice of legal and management experts, have decided to reduce the company's operation and undertake an orderly de-risking of its main liabilities, and have taken the following action. Number 1, writing to all heads of Commonwealth government who actually established CPTM at New Zealand Chogam in 1995 to alert them of the current position and requesting their urgent consideration for annual contribution and or special contribution to revive the endowment fund. Secondly, writing to the founders of the endowment fund for their urgent action on reviving the fund. And thirdly, initiating an orderly winding down process following a solvency plan of action involving the lease of CPTM premises and the obligation to our staff and our chief executive director and all our other obligations. This winding down process is targeted to a final conclusion at the end of January 2019, at which time CPTM will be in a semi-dormant mode to be revived only if a reliable and sustainable funding mechanism can be assured. During all this process, CPTM must remain in operational mode and with a functioning board of directors. This is the reason why we are holding this AGM and re-electing our directors to be a caretaker of the winding down process and a possible revival. I want to conclude by thanking everyone, our dedicated and loyal staff, directors and advisors for their understanding, patience and support during this difficult time due to the agony of uncertainty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar. So, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank to Omar for using for the first time the Skype and being for the first time away from the hub, but also being courageous to share with us as usual, exactly openly about where we stand. And my duty will be, as Chief Executive report, to tell you where we're going. And Omar knows that there is a continuous debate between me and him about the limitless opportunities where there are limits. There may be physical limits, but in the smart partnership movement we know that the limitless opportunities through smart partnership, which is a manifesto, a living manifesto, and the story so far is a basis of going forward. And as Chief Executive, on behalf of the members, and I'm not very sure if at any time in the last few hours since you came to the hub, you were curious to know who are the members. Here is a list of members, and I'll pass it on. According to GDPR lately, which we're trying to obey, we didn't put here the emails and the mobiles and everything else. But here it is, a list you can see, and you can have it as members to see who are the current members. But actually, the CPTM at large members, right from the beginning, from 1995, were formed of 4 groupings. And they were each and every government in the Commonwealth. There are 53 now, Patsy, or 52 and a half. Where are we? 53 and another one kind of probably on the way to come back. When we say the governments are members, the way the CPTM limited as a company limited by guarantee was registered in the UK, the way that was interpreted in practical terms was that the head of government to whom an AGM notice is being sent appoints a physical person. Yeah? Now usually the governments in diplomatic circles and in the Commonwealth, they have high commissioners in London. But the intention was that while the high commissioners are most useful and immediate source for support to the CPTM, the actual individuals that are going to be actively coordinating support within the country are going to be identified by the head of government or head of state and of that country, because those individuals, and we have one here, those individuals are going to be able to make sure that all the government departments, all the private sector, including the Foreign Office, is aware about the kind of benefits this CPTM could do were they to use it. So that was a unique feature, a first, in the multilateral type of arrangements that has been built into the CPTM limited cooperative framework. Now that, as you could imagine, and High Commissioners here realize, and Patsy, as you could imagine, could bring in a lot of misinterpretations and confusions, both in the formal channels, but as well as civil service, political, private sector, etc. So the kind of confusions that could bring is that how could one organization write directly to the head of government, and the head of government is a person, right, with an AGM notice, because they are members. Members meaning not necessarily they pay, just members in the Commonwealth, then by de facto, members of this Commonwealth cooperative new venture. So, but we were able, with our own senior officials who were part and parcel of the CPTM, we were able to, each year for 23 years, to ensure, with the help of High Commissioners over the years, to ensure that this confusion is not there. We were less able, as the time passed by, to continue to maintain the second member of the CPTM Limited as it was set up through this task force put together by Chipanyoko after Cyprus heads of government, to come up with the CPTM Limited. The second member was the Commonwealth Secretariat and the Secretary General themselves. They were in a very confusing state because they were part of a creature they created as an extension of the Commonwealth Secretariat, more or less. The Secretary General had a representative on the board. Vince Cable was one, for instance, was formerly a member of our group. And also the Secretary General had the duty, as they wanted to, and they built into the duty to appoint representatives of governments who are not contributing that year financially, voluntary contribution. So that Commonwealth Secretariat as a second member, that was maintained up to about 13 years ago, and at the request of the then Secretary General, Don McKinnon, there was a case made that now CPTM is mature enough and does not require the presence of the Secretary General. The truth was that the fact was that the Secretary General had a very important role right from the beginning and still has. And that important role is exactly what the Secretary General of the Commonwealth has in relation to Commonwealth as a whole, which is any activity that CPTM members do, they inform the Secretary General to make sure that there is a political accountability of each and every of the country that is involved in. So that has been also operationalized through the existence or appointment of a Commonwealth liaison officer in Secretary General office. So that was there up to about a few years ago when Secretary General of the Commonwealth made a case to the civil service and so on, COW, Committee of the Whole, that CPTM Limited reached a point where they don't need to supervise. Now, at that point, it became quite clear that there was a separation between the umbilical link and uniqueness of what Commonwealth Secretariat, at the request of heads of government, did to create this CPTM at large, Commonwealth at large, where they involve individual heads of government as much as they allow themselves to be involved for the benefit of the Commonwealth, in addition to their formal engagement within the Commonwealth heads of government. Now, alongside governments in the Commonwealth, only governments in the Commonwealth and Commonwealth Secretariat, there is still a Commonwealth liaison officer who needs to be appointed. We had public-private sector members, and we still have public-private sector members. Those public-private sector members were companies, large, small, Commonwealth, not Commonwealth, which was a visionary thing to do by the Commonwealth Secretariat in 1995. There are also public sector agencies like central banks, parastatal type, Bureau of Standards, National Statistic Offices, etc. So those became, in the last 3 years, the most active ones. And then we have the members as networking members. This was the reason why the whole thing was established. These are professionals who come from all kinds of diverse backgrounds, and they form the bulk of the CPTM at large. And they are not engaged under the CPTM limited umbrella as they would be otherwise engaged in an NGO or in a professional association. They are engaged with a lot of accountability, and political and otherwise, in relation to their status, which is alongside heads of government, alongside senior civil servants and high commissions and ministers, and alongside public sector and private sector. Networking professionals are also not just Commonwealth. They are the best you can get in the world beyond Commonwealth. Again, a unique feature and visionary of the then Secretary General in 1995. So this is what was created. What it evolved was what it is today, and which is what it will be tomorrow. And among the networking members, yeah, probably the most striking and most controversial, the most striking and more proud that the CPTM Limited is the companions, the highest award that we give to any professional, public, private sector or government. But above that is the fact that within the Smart Partnership movement, as Omar mentioned, which evolved in parallel with CPTM Limited from 1995, there were leaders, heads of government, who were directly involved in their personal capacity as far as that allowed them. And they are called CPTM Fellows. Now, the CPTM Fellows are the key attraction of the CPTM at large. They are the main value for the networking members to put things to work. And we're talking about, actually, lately, the chair of Smart Partnership Movement, His Excellency President Museveni. We're talking about the current, coming back, Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, to Dr. Mahathir. We're talking about His Majesty King Mswati. We're talking about Cyril Ramaphosa. He was a joint dialogue convener with us in '97 in Botswana. He's president right now. We're talking about President of Namibia, His Excellency Geingob. We're talking about Tundaim, is one of the most famous Minister of Finance and the current saver of the restructuring of the Malaysian financial framework. We're talking actually about Sir Martin Lang Construction in the UK. We're talking about former Chief of Staff for UK government, Lord David Craig. We're talking about Janet Morgan, former chair of Cable and Wireless. These are fellows. We're talking about Sir Charles Masefield, British aerospace, just because we are in UK. I think I have to go through all of this, I'm sorry. We're talking about Professor Tom de Gregory Fellows, who is not a Commonwealth citizen. He is a professor well known in history and agricultural economics from University of Houston.
And writer.
And we're talking about Prince El Hassan bin Talal of Jordan. He's a CPTM fellow. We're also talking about those who passed away and those who are no more in situ, presidents or prime ministers. We're talking about former President Kikwete of Tanzania, who had a last dialogue in 2013 in his own country and invited all of us. They are fellows emeritus if they are not in situ. Yeah? We're talking about President Uyoma of Namibia. He set up SWAPO in Namibia. We're talking about President Chisano, again in Mozambique. Above all, we all know we're talking about His Excellency, former President of Botswana, Seketule Masira, who alongside President Museveni and Dr. Mahathir were the pillars and attractors of all the other heads of government. We're also talking about Caribbean prime ministers. We're talking about quite a number of the Commonwealth-based leaders. These are the fellows. These are the fellows emeritus, or they were former fellows who passed away. We're talking about top civil servants, cabinet secretaries, who became joint executive group members, and they put together this most incredible smart partnership international dialogues. And I won't mention, but they are all into this thing. We're talking about, among the companions up to now, about Seshida Trampal, Chifanyoko, Secretary General, who contributed to this CPTM, alongside many other companions, also presidents or ordinary people. So these are the members, and these are the members today. And when Omar talked about what is Commonwealth for him, by the way of Commonwealth heads of government in April, the summit that took place here in London, he talked about the CPTM value to the Commonwealth and beyond, which was a paper that was put together for talking points to each and every head of government, in addition to the formal report of the CPTM, the 23rd probably report for the heads of government that was made to Foreign Affairs. And thank very much to High Commissioner of Seychelles to give us guidance on how to make it as clear as possible what CPTM Limited is all about today, as different from 1995. But in effect, what are we talking about that the members do? And how does the CPTM Smart Partners Hub help? One example was just before this AGM, which was an open house, a think tanking open house. Now it's taking place at this Smart Partners Hub in the library, which was created and maintained due to His Excellency President Museveni, was very keen on think tanking. He called it think tanking, that means ing all the time. He didn't call think tank, make a report and put it on the shelf. That was, he organized the first think tanking a number of years ago. Now, the CPTM Smart Partners since April 2018 up to April this year, one financial year, and then up to now, November. They've been continuing their interface with at the level of the governors of central bank. This is most unheard of in case we got used with the idea that central bank governors are kind of open for discussion. They are not. The governors of central banks, those who came about in the last few years, and they came to this hub and they came to the dialogues in 2013, they rarely want to be exposed to heads of government or to media or to open discussions. But they found this library a space, a neutral space, where they can come after Bank of International Settlement in Basel. They can come and say, I don't know what is a Bitcoin. Can you call somebody to tell me what it is? Don't recall that. And what is data, by the way? And here is how Professor David Hahn came about, to tell them, oh, this is data. This is how Oliver came about, Oliver Aram, representative of Chainbank, member, to tell them, don't do this and don't do that on blockchain technology. So the governors of central bank are not easy and they are not attracted. Go to the Commonwealth finance ministers and Commonwealth central bank governors. They are not really there because it's a formality. They tick, there is an agenda of 1 hour and a half maximum. But if they come here, they come a day before, they come in the morning, they sit down, they ask questions, they come in between. When we had the open house during Commonwealth Summit, a whole week and more, we had the governor of Central Bank of Uganda, Professor Mutabila, not as a governor, although he's a governor.
Mahela,
Yes.
Mahela,
Yes.
is this part of your report?
Yes,
Because
it is.
we need to follow the order paper.
I'm following the order paper, Omar.
No, but the AGM was supposed to be 1 hour. Now we are already.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Omar. But the whole point is that the order paper is a formality, which I'm following. I have it here and I'll follow. But as a matter of fact, the CPTM Limited is only in existence because of the CPTM at large. And we wanted to make sure that it is on the record for once what CPTM members are all about. The CPTM Limited, which has been followed ad literam for its governance for 23 years and continue to be followed, is simply an artifact. But actually the value of it are the members themselves. Not necessarily what they do today, because they will continue to do that, even after CPTM Limited will be replaced with, say, SPTM Limited. So, if you want to see the kind of things that CPTM does, they are to do with leveraging value of knowledge and data in initiatives which we talked about, inclusive initiatives, where the CPTM has been very active through its Smart Partners Hub in Swaziland, in Lesotho, in Namibia, in Uganda, through Smart Partners links, particularly the young ones lately, Smart 29ers in Uganda and in Tanzania. And we continue to actually maintain the smart partnership practice through the manifesto of the smart partnership movement, which has been enriched in the last 3 years since the last dialogue. Of course, for all this, the CPTM board, and I'm on CPTM board as chief executive, alongside my colleagues here and alongside the chairman, they wrote a letter which the chairman signed on 26th of October, which also high commissioners had that letter, and in which it has been concluded that in the context of its ongoing responsibilities, I'm quoting from the letters, which have been said to each and every head of government, the CPTM board has been carefully reviewing the regularity of its income via government voluntary contributions. Accordingly, the board, having evaluated in August the resources necessary for the immediate 12 months period, and having explored in some detail the next steps for the effective delivery of the inclusive initiative, agreed that the members associated with 6 inclusive initiatives, along with supplementary support for CPTM, consider that funding of £650,000, which is $864,500 will be required for the period of 2 years, for which the leveraging value of data is planned in quite detail, has members who are expecting to move ahead as soon as we finish the AGM here. So that is a letter. These are some of the activities that particularly are being highlighted. There are many activities that the networks do. We don't mention the, for instance, we didn't mention in Botswana the development of land in Botswana, the development of catering courses in Namibia, in informal settlements. There are many, many things that are taking place which are all recorded weekly and shared with the members. Now, this is my report as Chief Executive, and I thought that the best thing you will have is the leveraging value of data program for the next 2 years, together with the heads of government report this year at the Commonwealth Summit, and together with the limitless smart partnership, which tells you how and why do we think that that will move forward. Now, that concludes actually also my Chief Executive report, and both in terms of who are the members, what do they do, and where we should go forward. The next item is connected to the members, it's connected to the contribution that the members do. As I mentioned, the highest award that CPTM board and CPTM members, governments and so on, put together is the CPTM Companion Award. The CPTM Companion Award is not given every year. It is given to those that made a consistent input to the smart partnership and to the CPTM. So I will ask Dr. Christodoulides to come in and present 2018 Companion Award. Please.
Chairman Amar, Chief Executive Kala, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, my special privilege and honor to deal with the award of the Companion, CPTM Companion of this year. This year, the board of CPTM has decided to bestow the honorary title of Companion of CPTM on Professor David Hunt, OB, MBA, for his significant contribution to CPTM Smart Partnership International Dialogue and to CPTM generally. Now, what is according to the Constitution, what is a companion? I read, any individual, whether in government, public, private, or personal capacity, who has made an exceptional and active contribution to the developmental concept and practice of smart partnership for the benefit of one or more countries of the Commonwealth and for the Commonwealth as a whole, may be invited by the fellows to become a fellow CPTM. Fellows are honorary champions of CPTM and for the Smart Partnership movement. Now, this award of Companion, CPTM Companion, this year is for Professor David Hunt. There is a citation, nearly 3 pages. I won't go over it in detail, but with your permission, I'll just read a few paragraphs. In the recent 2018 Central Bank Governors-led think tanking sessions, Professor David Hunt performed the leading advisory role in relation to the priorities which should be given by the Commonwealth Partnership, Commonwealth Smart Partners countries in their new comparative integrated framework of initiatives on leveraging the value of knowledge and data through smart partnership. Professor Hunt's main live broadcast interviews was liberating the value of data as a main summary of the current state of the use of data, which penetrates all the national economies irrespective of their development and size. Now, I'll read a little from the other pages. I have the important ones here. Professor Hunt, realizing the value of the smart partnership framework, also attracted and mobilized some of the best relevant experiences from the UK colleagues, from such as the UK Office of the National Statistics, the new think tanking Economic Statistics Centre of Excellence, in addition to the best experts in the data visualization. Professor Hunt is part of the CPTM Smart Partnership Movement, inclusive growth initiatives on financial inclusion, quality and standards initiatives, and national standards, which form part of the report of the pre-Chokham Foreign Ministers meeting towards the common future, April 18. Now I call upon the Chief Executive and request her to hand the certificate to Professor
I'm not going to, this is indeed a great honour, I'm not going to make a lengthy speech, you'll be pleased to hear. I just want to say how honoured I am to say that I think your leveraging the value of data initiative is inspired. The data revolution that we now experience can transform humanity for the better. It's a particularly interesting technology because it's a technology, a tremendously advanced technology, which is not associated with a vastly expensive infrastructure. So all countries can engage with this. We all have similar sorts of problems. We can learn from each other. I think it's a tremendous initiative. I think it's a great way forward. Thank you all very much indeed.
I think probably I would like to say that, David, if you weren't to be part of our group in the last 5 years, we wouldn't have been focusing on data. And similarly, actually, with Oliver, who focused us all the time on the use of data on blockchain, rather than going all around in digital landscape. But the core business and the core, the essence of the future for CPTM is around data. So you are signifying a new beginning for the CPTM at large. So thank you very much, David.
And I should apologise, I have to go now because I have another meeting to attend. My apologies.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we should see you.
I will see you again
Usually come George and Andrew and Iksan.
You three is enough. Yeah, no, you three is enough. Three is fine. Omar in the back.
That's it. Okay. Congratulations. Okay. Okay, so this is the part one of the agenda, and now we are going, thank you very much, George. Part one of the agenda of the AGM. So now we go to the part two, which is the formal business. That was introductory matter. Okay. So there is less going around into the formal business now. This year, the formal business has item 5, which it says that, turning to item 5 in the notice of the meeting, may I ask that the notice of the meeting be taken as read? Now, the financial statements. The financial statements for the most recent financial year, ending on 31st of March 2018, are laid before the meeting for receipt. Before proposing Resolution 1 to receive CPTM financial statements for the year ending 31st of March 2018, I invite questions on those statements and the report of the directors and auditors on this statement. Members should have received copies, that is member governments, all the members, those who are here or not here, all the members. But if not, there are copies available here at the hub, you could have picked them up. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, and I will call on those doing so, one at a time, and I should be grateful if you could please mention your name. Now, I don't know what to do about those who are online, but I'm sure you can give a signal rather than raising the hand, including Omar. Yeah? So, you've seen the financial statements produced by our auditors, Deloitte, and I think Deloitte should be online from Cambridge if you have a question and they could answer. Anybody or nobody wants now to look in the financial statements following Omar's introduction? I'm sure it would be useful to look, because we are very proud that we were able to actually produce for the AGM an ongoing concern for CPTM Limited, for your AGM today. You should look into that.
Excuse me,
Please.
but I move that it be accepted.
Okay. Okay, so that's, I think you're coming to that. I'm turning now to the resolution which says so, yeah? Now, the resolutions at this AGM, as before, will be taken on a show of hands, yeah? Without the need for voting forms. But however, if it appears, and I'm reading what I'm supposed to read, right? If it appears from the show of the hands that there may be sufficient votes on the show of hands to carry the resolution, the respective resolution, I will call a poll on that resolution to take into account the proxy votes which we received plenty, which have been, and will announce the result of that resolution at the end of the meeting. Voting forms for such resolutions have been circulated to members present to enable the poll to proceed. Hopefully that will not be necessary. And one of the unique experience, every year we are experiencing new things, is that most of the directors and our chairman had to send it as members, they had to send their proxies because they can't vote. It's still outdated, the legal framework relation to the company limited by guarantee. They can't vote online. So they send also proxies. So now I propose resolution 1, which is that the meeting receives the financial statements for the year ending 31st of March and the reports of the directors and auditors, Deloitte, as an ordinary resolution. Would all members in favor please raise a hand? Those who are physically present. Those against? I declare the resolution passed then.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now I turn to resolution 2. You have the AGM agenda. Namely, to reappoint Deloitte as auditors. As members know, Deloitte is an internationally known accountancy practice, and they've been in this position, although it has been always looked at in relation to their reappointment in relation to others available, but they've been with CPTM since 1995 when they set up the financial structure, and then they continue to produce the Deloitte's the company statements, financial statements every year. So I propose as an ordinary resolution that Deloitte LLP be and are hereby reappointed auditors to hold office until the conclusion of the next general meeting, at which accounts are laid before the members, will be laid before them, and they authorize the directors to agree their remuneration. Would all members in favor please raise hand? Oh, sorry, I have to. Okay. So I declare the resolution passed. Am I right, Nick? Okay. Now I turn to the resolutions 3 to 9. And the resolutions 3 to 9 are proposing the reappointment, as the chairman said, of the directors representing different categories of members in CPTM. Although there is a reappointment representing the 3 categories of the CPTM Limited, I think you might want, before you do so, to look at the profiles of those directors. Some of them have been boss directors, member founders. So there are profiles of the CPTM board of directors who are kind of likely to be requesting you to reappoint them or otherwise. If you don't have them, but you may wish to look at each and every. Now, as a general kind of observation, Dr. Mutala Angolo from Namibia, formerly starting actually as a permanent secretary of the President's office, and now being a farmer, she continued to be part of the CPTM Limited while contributing to smart management. Dr. George Christodoulides from Cyprus, the most senior, respected in Mediterranean, Malta, and everywhere else, individual. Ambassador Barry Ford started as a young individual. He's not that he's old now, he's still younger than all of us, but he is secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and in the President's office. Dr. Chu Nguyen, one of the very well-known and respected diplomats in the Commonwealth, and now leading private sector in Malaysia. Mr. Lekoma Motibasela, former permanent secretary of Secretary of Asire, His Excellency President of Botswana, and leading figure in smart partnership movement, being the first in Africa that jointly organized with all the others a smart partnership dialogue in Botswana. And Tansioma, we know, is probably the archetypal Commonwealth science advisor, will always be. And General Shurdam has many medals that he doesn't talk about it, but he is actually promoting goodness because he knows what otherwise means if there is no goodness, and believe him, he knows that. Then Dr. Andrew Tausig, one of the best known BBC professional who put all his professionalism into CPTM and Smart Partnership Movement at the service of leaders and ourselves. There are alternate directors who are going to become continue to be alternate director if the directors are being elected. So now, with the exception of Dr. Christodoulides and myself, who do not retire this year, all the directors of CPTM are retiring this year, and all present themselves for re-election. Once a director is re-elected, that director's alternate director is automatically re-elected and does not need to be separately voted on. As we are currently in a position of de-risking, the CPTM board did not think that while a reconstruction is taking place, they should invite new directors to for this AGM to be considered. So they allow themselves to be re-elected. I'll put each of the resolutions 3 to 9 inclusive to a vote on a show of hands again. And if there is any doubt about whether the required 50% majority of the relevant category of members in favour has been reached on the show of hands, I will follow the procedure previously outlined of calling a poll on the resolution in question so as to take account of proxy votes, and will announce the result at the end of the meeting. So I now turn to resolution 3, which is, resolution, it is 3. Okay. To appoint Dr. Nutala Angolo as a director representing financially contributing government members. She's from Namibia, and she represents a number of governments who put forward voluntary contributions. Would all financially contributing government members in favor please raise their red card? You have a red card? Those who have got a red card, not a pink card. Sorry. Yeah. Okay? Okay? Those against? Okay. So I declare the resolution passed. I now turn to the resolution 4 to appoint Ambassador Barry 4 as a director representing financially contributing government members. Would financially contributing government members in favor please raise the red card? Those against after that? Okay. And we also have proxies. So you're not, because you're voting as a sheriff. Yeah? Okay. We have proxies from other governments. So I declare the resolution passed. Resolution 5 to appoint General Shurdam as a director for the next category of CPTM Limited, representing private and public sector members. Would all private and public sector members in favor please raise the green card? Green card. Green card. Put your hand please up. Okay? Public-private sector members are like Central Bank of Uganda, Central Bank of Swaziland, Bureau of Standards from UK, BSI, Barbados Standards Institute, these are including Hydroform from South Africa, and so on. So that is passed. Okay. Resolution 6 to appoint Dato Chuen Guan as a director representing permanent members. Now, the permanent members are those who contributed, is representative of those who contributed to the CPTM Fellows Endowment Fund, and there are many. And Dato Chu was elected to be representative of those permanent members of CPTM. So, would all permanent members in favor please raise a pink card? Pink card?
Right.
And can I have a pink card?
No, it's just
I don't have a pink
true.
card.
It's just true.
Two.
Fine.
Passed.
Those against? There is nobody against. I declare the resolution passed then. Resolution 7, Tanshi Oma is representing networking members. Now this is the last category.
Can we take 7, 8 and 9 together?
No, let's take Oma on its own. Yeah?
Okay.
So Tanshi Oma is the director representing networking members. Would anybody who is representing here networking members, and most of you are, raise the yellow card? Okay, so declare the resolution passed. And the resolution 8 to appoint Mr. Lekoma Motibasela from Botswana as director representing networking members. Would networking members
Okay, yellow.
yellow card? Okay. So nobody against. If the majority of the votes on the show of hands,
That's
No.
under
okay, that is in-house.
Fine.
Now I turn to resolution 9, which is to appoint, finally in the same category, networking members, Dr. Andrew Tausig as the director representing networking members. Would any of the members raise their yellow card?
Right.
Okay. So I declare the resolution passed, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formal resolutions of the meeting. There are two further items to note. The first is that, having been an alternate director for many years, earlier this year, Dr. George Christodoulides from Cyprus was appointed by the board under the Article 48E as a full director. So we congratulate George Christodoulides. I'm very glad that I'm not the only director at large, as is called otherwise. The second is that the CPTM, second note, has added an addendum to the CPTM Limited Code of Ethics. And I'm sure that you picked up the Code of Ethics of CPTM right from the beginning, due to its membership of high caliber of both government and private sector and networking professionals. There was a code of ethics which governed all the members' conduct, not only the Smart Partners hub employed by CPTM Limited. And this year, I'm sorry that Professor David Han is not here, but this year, due to the new General Data Protection Regulations that apply to all the UK companies, including CPTM Limited, and to other similar laws regarding data protection and privacy, CPTM Limited added an addendum related to GDPR in short. And as is usually the case in the case of CPTM, our CPTM companion from Australia, Mr. John Blackshaw, offered his input and assistance to draft and to prepare the addendum. And I would like John to say a few words about the significance of the data protection and privacy addendum to the CPTM Code of Conduct. I must say, I haven't heard too many, never mind Commonwealth organizations, but too many organizations who had courage to add already some reference to the GDPR in their own Code of Conduct. So again, we are probably one of the first. Please, John.
Okay. Well, this arose out of the change in legislation in the UK earlier this year as a result of the EU legislation change. Oh, sorry. Microphone. Yes, this arose out of the change in the UK legislation earlier in the year in terms of privacy and data, and it all came out of the Cambridge Analytical issues that travelled around the world early last year. But the UK apparently picked up on the EU legislation and adopted most of it as their own, and in fact issued a series of questions to be put to different organisations as to how they not only receive data but how they use their data. And Mahela and I discussed it over the phone, and we decided that what would be a good idea is that because CPTM didn't have anything covering the content of data and what CPTM did with that data, that there should be something written around that. So I put together the addendum earlier this year, and I'm also trying to conduct a bit of an audit of this within the organisation to extract from it what it does in fact do with the data that it obtains from you. And basically it's just data relating to phone calls, email addresses and things like that, which CPTM has, and addresses which CPTM has been accumulating. The data that's on the website has been, I believe, protected by the provider of that service, and with the addendum it's a brief summary of the way that I saw CPTM using that data, that the only use of the data that they obtain would be to further its own aims rather than selling it off to a third party. So the wording of the addendum basically is structured around that members will be giving permission for CPTM to receive their data for the reasons outlined in the addendum, and that the CEO would vet anybody who's particularly interested in receiving information about another member, and it would all be passed through the CEO making a decision one way or the other. And of course the records of all of this would be then need to be kept for the legislator should they call to prove that there is a system in place for the management of that data. Can I give an example of how this arose? There was an issue that I saw in a newsletter from a lady who working in Uganda as a community nurse near Gulu in Uganda. And she, in the article, which was written through to VSO, Voluntary Service Overseas, which I was a former member of, stated that she was having to make decisions about whether babies should live or die. And at that time I felt that somebody in that position shouldn't be making that decision. And she was obviously a volunteer at the same time. And I wanted to convey that information through to the people in Uganda to see what they could do about that situation on the ground. And in doing so, I wasn't able to directly communicate with that individual. I had to pass that information through to VSO, who then contacted the volunteer, who then said yes, it's okay for them to contact me, and that channel of communication was open to the a particular smart 39er in 29er, is it 29er, isn't it, in Uganda, who's now taken on that situation within a teaching hospital in Uganda. So it started out with my interest in the subject started out with that convoluted route to get information to where it was really needed. But part of the data protection process is to try and protect members from being approached by others just because you're a member of CPTM and you have kind hearts and generous hearts, that they should be exploiting that for their own purposes. So the data protection legislation is designed to put a block.
Thank you very much to the to John Blackshaw, CPTM companion from Australia, who is trying to do an audit in relation to the CPTM Limited. So with the Omar.
That is not part of the AGM, right? We have concluded AGM.
Now you are concluding the AGM as you say it, Omar.
We should have concluded the AGM on the items on the AGM agenda.
Okay.
What John just said just now is not part of the AGM.
So now we are closing. We are closing now.
We have a proper procedure in AGM, not
Omar, can I declare the AGM closed? Thank you.